money has always been a confession disguised as ambition. People pretend they chase it for freedom, for opportunity, for security. But beneath every polished justification lies a truth they will never admit. Money is the stage where human nature performs without a mask. It is not the currency that corrupts them. It is the permission it gives them to reveal what they were already hiding. That is why Machiavelli never worshipped wealth. He dissected it. He treated it like an X-ray machine for the soul, a device that exposes the fractures inside people long before they break in public. If you want to understand the world, he would say, do not follow the words, the dreams, or the promises of a person. Follow how they behave when money enters the conversation. That is the purest form of truth you will ever get. Most people imagine themselves as noble until the moment they realize what a price tag can buy them. They tell themselves they are loyal until loyalty clashes with profit. They think they are wise until the possibility of gain makes them reckless. They swear they are kind until kindness threatens their advantage. Money is not the goal they pursue. It is the mirror they spend their entire lives running from. Because once they look into it, they see the part of themselves they have been trying to bury. Greed they pretend not to have. Fear they pretend not to feel. Envy they pretend not to carry. And it terrifies them to discover that these impulses grow louder the moment they believe fortune is within reach. Machiavelli understood something brutally simple. Ambition without control is just hunger, and hunger is the most predictable force on earth. That is why those who chase wealth blindly always lose. They think they are moving strategically, yet every step they take is guided by desperation. They are so eager to be seen as successful that they offer their intentions to the world like an open wound. They reveal their plans, their weaknesses, their impulses, all while believing they appear confident. A man who wants money too much is the easiest man to manipulate. You do not have to threaten him. You only have to tempt him with the illusion of progress. Promise him a shortcut, a partnership, an opportunity, and you will control him more effectively than any chain. That is why true power never chases. It positions, it observes, it waits. Machiavelli would tell you that the most dangerous individual in any room is the one whose ambition is silent, not absent silent. Because silent ambition is structured, deliberate, patient. It does not react to bait. It does not reveal longing. It simply studies the movements of others until the moment comes to strike without hesitation. People fear the loud ones, the flamboyant ones, the openly ambitious ones, but they misunderstand the nature of threat. Loud ambition is emotional. Quiet ambition is lethal. Money exposes this difference with surgical precision. Watch the ambitious man who has not yet disciplined his appetite. The moment he tastes even a drop of success, he becomes erratic. He speaks too loudly. He spends too quickly. He trusts too easily. He confuses movement with power. He thinks that because he has acquired wealth, he has also acquired influence. But wealth is not influence. Wealth is evidence. It reveals your position, your choices, your attachments. And the more loudly you display it, the more data you hand to those who might want to use you. To the Machiavellian thinker, money is not something to show. It is something to conceal until it has matured into leverage. Only then does it serve its true purpose. Ambition functions the same way. Most people announce their goals, thinking it makes them disciplined. In reality, it makes them transparent, and transparency is vulnerability. Once the world knows what you want, it knows how to move you. Machiavelli understood that power grows fastest in darkness, not in celebration. A seed sprouting beneath the soil develops roots before it reaches the sun. Ambition must behave the same way. If you broadcast your desires, people will either sabotage them or exploit them. If you nurture them privately, no one will see you coming until it is too late to stop you. That is not cruelty. That is survival. And yet, ambition alone is not enough. Human nature must be understood if you want to control the outcomes money creates. Most people do not pursue success. They pursue the feeling of being seen as successful. They do not want wealth. They want the validation they think wealth will buy them. They want admiration without effort. status without strategy, comfort without competence. This psychological flaw makes them predictable. They will always reach for the symbol of power before they earn the substance. They will spend money to look important instead of investing it to become unshakable. They will chase the spotlight instead of the structure. They will value appearance over influence, forgetting that appearance fades the moment a stronger force enters the room. Machiavelli saw through this delusion. He knew that the moment someone relies on external symbols to feel superior, they have already surrendered control. Because symbols can be taken away, status can be revoked, reputation can be destroyed. But internal architecture, discipline, perceptiveness, emotional detachment cannot be stolen. The person who builds their power on internal foundations becomes untouchable because they are not tied to anything the world can remove. They can lose wealth and rebuild it. They can lose allies and replace them. They can lose position and reclaim it. Meanwhile, the individual who built their identity on material validation collapses the moment their lifestyle is threatened. That is the real difference between ambition and power. Ambition seeks elevation, power seeks stability. And stability, in the Machiavellian sense, comes from understanding human nature so deeply that nothing others do can surprise you. You know their motivations before they speak. You see their insecurities before they try to hide them. You anticipate their betrayal before they commit it. That is why money matters, not because of what it can buy, but because of what it reveals. It is the instrument through which human nature becomes legible. If you want to master it, you must stop treating money as a finish line. You must treat it as a diagnostic tool, a blueprint for understanding what people value, fear, desire, and avoid. Only then will you see that the true battlefield has never been the market, the economy, or the competition. The real battlefield is the human mind, yours and theirs. And the one who learns to navigate that terrain without emotion becomes the one everyone else must obey. Money does not seduce people because it is valuable. It seduces them because it exposes the emptiness they fear confronting. When a person looks at wealth, they are not seeing numbers, assets, or possessions. They are seeing the version of themselves they wish they could be: confident, respected, untouchable. This illusion is powerful because it feeds the deepest hunger of human nature, the hunger to escape insignificance. Machiavelli understood that the craving for significance drives more decisions than reason ever will. That is why people chase money even when it destroys them. They are not searching for prosperity. They are trying to outrun the quiet terror that without wealth, they do not matter. The tragedy is this: the more someone chases significance externally, the more insignificant they become internally. They cling to symbols, to habits, to lifestyles that signal value but provide none. They waste years trying to be admired instead of becoming formidable. Admiration is fragile. Formidability is permanent. But human nature chooses admiration because it is easier. It requires no discipline, no restraint, no silence. It requires only performance. And performance is the cheapest form of ambition. This is why money reveals people so quickly. Offer a person a taste of status, and watch how fast they betray their deeper values. Give them comfort, and observe how they abandon caution. Put them in a room where their image is praised, and see how rapidly they forget structure. Machiavelli studied this pattern not because he hated humanity, but because he understood it. People do not act according to their ideals. They act according to their insecurities. And nothing amplifies insecurities more violently than sudden access to wealth. But here is the piece no one wants to admit. Wealth does not change people. It removes their excuses. A cruel man without money hides behind circumstance. A cruel man with money reveals his hand. A weak man without money appears humble. A weak man with money becomes loud. A manipulative person without money pretends to be kind. A manipulative person with money becomes generous in all the ways that benefit them. Money is not the villain. It is the amplifier. It magnifies the traits people hoped would never be seen. For a Machiavellian thinker, this is an advantage. When people expose themselves, they become predictable. And predictability is leverage. You cannot control someone whose motivations are hidden, but you can easily guide someone whose desires betray them. If you know what they want, you can decide when to give it. If you know what they fear, you can choose when to withhold. Influence is not built through force, but through understanding the architecture of human desire. That is why the strongest individuals are not the richest, but the least dependent. Wealth matters, yes, but detachment matters more. A person who can walk away owns the negotiation. A person who cannot walk away is already defeated, even if they believe they are winning. Detachment is not the absence of ambition. It is the absence of desperation. And desperation is the most expensive weakness a human being can carry. People spend their lives confusing abundance with strength, but the Machiavellian knows the truth. Abundance makes most people softer, not sharper. Comfort dulls their instincts. Success blinds their judgment. Praise inflates their ego. They become complacent, predictable, and easy to influence. That is why those who rise too quickly often fall just as fast. Their ambition outpaced their character. Their wealth exceeded their wisdom. They built an empire on sand, mistaking speed for strategy. Machiavelli observed that the moment a person becomes comfortable, they lose the hunger that made them dangerous. But comfort alone is not the real threat. The real threat is the fear of losing comfort. That fear makes people obedient. They will compromise their standards, tolerate disrespect, remain in weak alliances, and protect the very systems that exploit them, simply because they cannot imagine returning to a lesser life. They do not protect their comfort. Their comfort controls them. This fear shapes societies more than any law or ruler ever has. People believe they are free because they can choose their work, their purchases, their routines. But these choices are illusions if the consequences of losing income terrify them into submission. A man who cannot afford to lose his job has the same freedom as a man in chains. A woman who cannot afford to lose her status has the same autonomy as someone trapped in a prison cell. The bars are invisible, but the confinement is real. A Machiavellian mind understands this dynamic clearly. To control people, you do not need to restrict their movement. You need only restrict their options. You do not need to take away their wealth. You need only tie their lifestyle to outcomes you control. Once someone becomes accustomed to a certain level of comfort that depends on you, they become predictable. They become cautious. They become loyal, not out of admiration, but out of fear. Fear of losing what they believe they deserve. This is why true power is built not through wealth, but through leverage. Wealth can be stolen, taxed, seized, or lost. Leverage endures. Leverage is created when others depend on you more than you depend on them. When they require your approval, your resources, your stability, your access. When their future feels uncertain without your presence, it is not their affection you want. It is their reliance. Affection fades, reliance deepens. Money is one of the simplest ways to create reliance because people tie their identity to what money makes possible. Remove their money and you remove their identity. Threaten their comfort and you threaten their confidence. A Machiavellian strategist would never need to say a word. The silent implication is enough. When people believe their well-being is connected to you, they adjust themselves automatically. They self-censor. They negotiate against their own interests. They rationalize obedience as loyalty. They obey without being commanded. This is not cruelty. This is the blueprint of power. You cannot control human nature by opposing it. You control it by understanding it, by seeing how desperately people cling to the image of stability, how much they fear uncertainty, how far they will go to protect the illusion of progress. And once you understand these truths, money stops being the goal. It becomes the instrument, quiet, subtle, and devastatingly effective. People like to pretend they can resist the pull of money, that their morals are fixed, that their integrity is unshakable. But integrity is a luxury most can only afford when they have nothing to lose. The moment wealth enters the equation, the human mind begins to bend. It bends quietly at first, a small compromise here, a rationalization there, until one day it snaps completely, and the person convinces themselves that survival justifies everything. Machiavelli never judged this. He expected it. He understood that the average person is not guided by principles but by pressure, not by loyalty but by opportunity, not by virtue but by vulnerability. And the moment money applies enough pressure, vulnerability becomes destiny. The world teaches people to aspire, to dream, to aim for a better life, but it never teaches them how to handle the psychological weight of actually achieving it. That is why sudden success destroys more people than failure ever will. Failure humbles, success exposes. Once a person acquires wealth, they must confront the reality they have been avoiding their entire lives, that their character was never strong enough to support the lifestyle they fantasized about. Wealth magnifies their insecurities until they seek validation in the loudest, most reckless ways possible. They chase the admiration of strangers, the envy of rivals, the approval of those they secretly fear. They spend, not because they enjoy luxury, but because they cannot bear the silence that comes with having nothing left to prove. This is where ambition becomes a double-edged blade. At its best, ambition is discipline sharpened by vision. At its worst, ambition is desperation disguised as purpose. The desperate kind of ambition is everywhere. It is in the entrepreneur who burns bridges for recognition. It is in the social climber who trades loyalty for opportunity. It is in the employee who worships their boss because they fear losing their lifestyle. Desperate ambition is loud, frantic, erratic. It makes people cling to wealth instead of mastering it. It turns money from a tool into a lifeline. And when money becomes a lifeline, every decision becomes a negotiation with fear. Machiavelli observed that the most powerful individuals were rarely the richest. They were the ones who remained emotionally sovereign, regardless of circumstances. Wealth did not own them. Fear did not manipulate them. Validation did not distract them. They could lose everything and rebuild from nothing because their power was internal, not inherited from their environment. A person like this does not cling to luxury. They use it strategically. They do not idolize money. They shape it into leverage. They do not beg for opportunities. They create the conditions where opportunities bend toward them. That is the difference between those who command respect and those who demand it. The former operate from an inner fortress, a state of mind untouched by external chaos. The latter operate from a fragile pedestal built on shaky perception. And because they know the pedestal can crumble, they spend their lives trying to look stable instead of becoming stable. They lie about their income, exaggerate their influence, hide their failures, flaunt their successes, all to maintain an image that was never real to begin with. This is why money ruins so many people. Not because money is corrupt, but because most people built their identity on illusions, and illusions cannot survive scrutiny. A Machiavellian thinker understands that the strongest position a person can hold is the ability to remain unchanged by wealth, not immune to wealth that is naive, but unchanged by it. The moment money alters your values, your temperament, your patience, your discipline, you have already surrendered to it. You are no longer the master, you are the servant, and the world will treat you accordingly. People respect the individual who remains calm regardless of fortune. They fear the one who can walk away without a second thought. They obey the one whose stability does not depend on applause, opportunity, or approval. To achieve this state, you must understand something most people avoid. Money is not security. Money is only the perception of security, because security can be taken. Opportunities can vanish. Markets can collapse. Allies can turn. Reputation can fall apart. The only real security is the ability to adapt faster than circumstances change. Machiavelli saw that a human being who is able to detach from outcomes becomes immune to manipulation. Threats lose their power. Bribes lose their appeal. Promises lose their charm. When you cannot be bought or frightened, you operate on a level most people cannot comprehend. This is why so many powerful figures prefer to remain enigmatic. Mystery is leverage. The less the world knows about your priorities, your weaknesses, your attachments, the harder it becomes to control you. And money, ironically, becomes one of the greatest tools for building mystery, not by flaunting it, but by concealing it. A person who lives well but not loudly, who moves with precision but without spectacle, who accumulates resources without drawing attention, becomes a threat without ever appearing hostile. They become the presence others sense but cannot measure, the force others feel but cannot predict. Human nature reacts to uncertainty with caution, and caution is a form of obedience. Show someone your entire hand, and they will calculate your downfall. Hide your hand, and they will fear the card you might be holding. Machiavelli understood that the very act of making people guess grants you an invisible form of power. This is why the loud, rich man is vulnerable. Every number he displays becomes a target. Every boast becomes a blueprint. Every indulgence becomes a weakness waiting to be exploited. But the quiet individual, the one whose wealth is only partially visible, whose influence is only partially understood, that person commands a level of psychological dominance that money alone can never buy. Because in the end, the greatest advantage money gives you is not luxury, comfort, or even freedom. It is unpredictability. When people cannot define you, they cannot confine you. When they cannot measure you, they cannot manage you. When they cannot see your limits, they assume you have none. And that assumption alone creates a gravitational pull that bends others to your will without a single command. That is the ultimate Machiavellian truth. The less you reveal, the more they imagine. And what they imagine will always be more powerful than anything you could ever show. People like to believe that morality governs the world, that justice eventually triumphs, that good intentions lead to good outcomes. But these are stories crafted for comfort, not survival. Machiavelli wrote, with the unpleasant clarity most people spend their lives avoiding, the world is not shaped by virtue, but by force. Not by kindness, but by calculation. Not by fairness, but by leverage. The sooner a person accepts this, the sooner they stop living at the mercy of illusions designed to keep them obedient. Morality has its place, but it is a luxury reserved for those who already possess power. For everyone else, morality is a cage that prevents them from seeing the architecture of influence as it truly is. Money is the most seductive moral disguise. It allows people to pretend their motives are noble when they are merely strategic. They donate publicly and exploit privately. They speak of ethics while negotiating in shadows. They preach humility to keep others small, all while quietly accumulating advantages. This is not hypocrisy. This is design. The world rewards those who understand that moral language is often a tool, not a truth. A person who does not grasp this becomes easy to manipulate because they confuse appearance with intention. They trust those who sound righteous instead of those who act effectively. But if money disguises motives, ambition reveals them. A person's ambition exposes the architecture of their soul more brutally than any confession. Some people want wealth to escape their past. Some want status to drown out their insecurity. Others want power because it is the only language the world ever respected in them. And then there are the few who want none of these things, not because they lack hunger, but because they understand a deeper principle, that true power comes not from possessing, but from choosing. The ability to walk away from everything, including ambition itself, is the highest dominance a human being can achieve. The average person will never reach this point because they cling to outcomes like lifelines. They must win. They must succeed. They must be admired. They must prove something. Their ambition becomes a chain, not a compass. And when ambition becomes a chain, they are easily led. Offer them a chance to shine, and they will betray their patience. Offer them a chance to advance, and they will ignore the trap. Offer them praise, and they will lower their guard. Machiavelli understood that the strongest way to control someone is to let them believe they are rising, while ensuring their ascent depends entirely on you. Human nature, when stripped of excuses, is uncomplicated. People want safety, validation, advantage, and the illusion of autonomy. They work tirelessly to appear independent, while secretly craving permission. They bow to norms they claim to reject. They seek freedom, yet fear responsibility. This contradiction is not a flaw, it is the key. Because once you understand it, you can shape the world around you with disturbing ease. You do not need to force people to obey. You simply create conditions where obedience aligns with their desires. The wealthy understand this instinctively. That is why the richest do not display their true intentions. They speak softly while moving ruthlessly. They promise stability while extracting loyalty. They offer opportunity while demanding dependence. They do not need to shout commands. They only need to make others feel that compliance benefits them. Money is rarely the reward, it is the leash. A leash people wrap around their own necks because they believe it will lead them somewhere better. But there is a darker truth beneath this. The more money people gain, the more predictable they become. Their lifestyle becomes a map of their weaknesses. Their priorities reveal their vulnerabilities. Their comfort exposes their fears. A person afraid of losing luxury will never challenge the hand that feeds them. A person afraid of losing status will never confront a superior. A person afraid of losing approval will never speak honestly. This is why Machiavelli warned that comfort, not adversity, is the true assassin of character. Adversity sharpens, comfort dissolves. In this world, the ones who rise are rarely the loudest or the most talented. They are the ones who remain unshaken by gain or loss, who navigate ambition without letting it consume them, who approach money as a weapon rather than a trophy. They understand that humanity's greatest weakness is emotional impulsiveness, the desperate need to feel important, admired, secure. And because they do not share this weakness, they move through the world like a ghost, untouched, unchallenged, unbound. To think like this requires a certain coldness, not cruelty, but clarity. The clarity to see people as they are, not as they pretend to be. The clarity to recognize that every alliance is temporary, every loyalty conditional, every promise strategic. This perspective is not cynical. It is liberating. It frees you from disappointment, from naivety, from the illusions that keep most people powerless. When you stop demanding virtue from the world, you stop being paralyzed when the world behaves without it. Yet, among all these truths, the most uncomfortable one is this. Human nature does not hate power. It worships it. People resent authority only when it excludes them. Once included, they defend it with devotion. They want hierarchy, even when they deny it. They want someone to follow, even when they claim independence. They want a system to believe in, even when it exploits them. Power satisfies the deepest human craving, the craving to belong to something stronger than oneself. And those who understand this can rule without ever raising their voice. This is where money and ambition intersect with a brutal elegance. Money creates structure, ambition navigates it, human nature submits to it. In the hands of the weak, these forces destroy. In the hands of the disciplined, they build empires, not empires of land or crowns, but empires of influence, the kind that outlasts wealth, outlasts reputation, outlasts even fear. Because when you understand the nature of power, you no longer chase it, you embody it, and the world instinctively responds. In the end, the truth no one wants to admit, the truth Machiavelli wrote with merciless precision, is that humanity is not driven by goodness or fairness or reason. It is driven by appetite, and those who master their appetite gain control over those who do not. The world, for all its complexity, runs on this simple equation. Those who understand human nature shape it. Those who misunderstand it are shaped by it. That is the final cruelty and the final clarity.